Have you noticed how exhausting it is to always explain yourself? Not once, not when it truly matters, but all the time, explaining why you made that choice, explaining why you said no, explaining why you need space, explaining why you changed, explaining why you left, explaining why you cannot keep living the way other people expect you to live. And the painful part is this. Even after you explain, they still do not understand. Or worse, they understand perfectly well, but they keep questioning you anyway. Because some people are not asking for clarity. They are asking for control. They do not want to understand your heart. They want access to it. They want you to stand there, nervous and soft, handing them reasons until they feel satisfied. So you keep clarifying. You keep defending your choices to people who have already decided to judge them. And every time you do, something in you becomes smaller, a little less certain, a little less peaceful, a little more dependent on being approved of. You tell yourself, I just want them to see my side, but deep inside, what often hurts most is this. You are tired of feeling like your life needs permission, tired of feeling guilty for your boundaries, tired of over-explaining simple decisions, tired of justifying your peace to people who disturb it. Listen carefully. A life that must always be explained is a life not yet fully owned. And today, I want to speak to the part of you that is done with begging to be understood. Because peace begins the moment you realize this. Not everyone deserves an explanation, and not every question deserves an answer. Why do we do this? Why do so many good, intelligent, sensitive people feel this deep need to explain themselves? At first, it seems simple. We think, if I explain clearly enough, they will understand. If I say it the right way, they will respect my choice. If I am calm enough, kind enough, reasonable enough, then this conflict will disappear. But in many situations, that is an illusion, because the real force behind endless explanation is often not communication. Fear of being misunderstood, fear of being seen as selfish, fear of disappointing people, fear of being rejected, fear of being the bad one in someone else's story. So we explain, not because the other person truly needs clarity, but because our nervous system is begging for safety. We want to reduce tension, we want to calm their face, soften their tone, stop the distance, stop the disapproval. In other words, we are not always explaining the truth. Sometimes we are negotiating for emotional approval. That is the trap, because once your peace depends on being understood by everyone, you become very easy to manipulate. A toxic person only needs to look confused, offended, or disappointed, and suddenly you are standing there giving a full presentation about your choices. Why you are tired, why you cannot come, why you need to leave, why you need a boundary, why you want a different life. And the more you explain, the more power they feel. Because now they are watching you defend your right to exist as you are. That is what makes explaining so dangerous. It slowly teaches your mind that your truth is not enough by itself, that your no is weak unless it is backed by a speech, that your choice is incomplete unless others agree, that your boundary is rude unless it is wrapped in apology. But a boundary that needs endless explanation is no longer a boundary. It is a request to be allowed. Zen wisdom sees this very clearly. When the mind is not rooted in itself, it seeks mirrors everywhere. It asks, am I right? Am I still good? Do you approve? Do you understand? And when those mirrors are unstable, the self becomes unstable too. That is why explaining yourself too much leaves you drained. You are not just speaking, you are placing your center in other people's hands, and people who enjoy control will never give it back willingly. Long ago, in the mountains of the East, there was a Zen master who had become known far beyond his village. He was not famous because he argued brilliantly. He was not admired because he defeated others with clever words. People came to him because of his presence. He spoke very little. He moved slowly. And when others stood near him, They felt something rare stillness. Not the stillness of sleep, not the stillness of fear, but the stillness of a man who had nothing to prove. This, of course, offended many people. Especially one young scholar from the city. The scholar had spent years mastering language, logic, scripture, and debate. He was sharp, proud, and hungry to be seen as superior. When he heard that villagers were calling this old mountain monk wise, he laughed. "How can a man who says so little be considered great?" he asked. "If he is truly wise, let him meet me in public and defend his teachings." So the scholar climbed the mountain, all the way up the narrow stone path. He rehearsed his arguments. He would expose the master. He would ask questions the old man could not answer. He would prove, in front of the disciples, that silence was only ignorance dressed in robes. By the time he arrived, the sun was beginning to set. The monastery was quiet. A few disciples were sweeping the courtyard. Water was heating over a small fire. The master sat beneath a cedar tree, pouring tea into a simple clay cup. The scholar walked straight to him and bowed only slightly, more out of form than respect. "Are you the master they speak of?" he asked. The old man looked up and nodded. The scholar sat down across from him. "I have come a long way," the scholar said, "because people praise your wisdom. Yet I hear you barely teach. You do not debate. You do not defend your ideas. You hide in silence, and simple people mistake it for depth." The disciples looked up from the courtyard. The evening air became very still, but the master said nothing. He lifted the teapot and filled a second cup. Then he placed it in front of the scholar. The scholar frowned. "I did not come for tea," he said. "I came for truth." The master still did not answer. He simply placed the cup closer. Annoyed, the scholar continued. "Is this your method to avoid hard questions? To sit there like a stone while others call you enlightened? If your teaching is real, speak. If not, then admit it." The master looked at him with calm eyes. Then he took his own cup and drank. The scholar felt his face grow hot. He had expected a contest. He had expected words he could defeat. But this silence felt like a mirror, and in that mirror he could feel his own arrogance becoming visible. So he attacked harder. He quoted texts. He challenged doctrine. He accused the master of cowardice. He mocked the disciples for following a man who refused to answer. At last, after pouring out all his pride, the scholar leaned forward and said, "Why do you not explain yourself?" The master set down his cup then. Very softly he asked, "To whom?" The scholar blinked. "To me." The master shook his head. "If a man comes thirsty, I offer tea. If a man comes open, I offer truth. If a man comes only to hear himself, what explanation would reach him?" The scholar stiffened. The master continued, still calm, still gentle. "You did not climb this mountain to learn. You climbed it to win. You did not come asking for understanding. You came asking me to enter your noise." The disciples were silent. Even the wind seemed to pause. Then the master said the words the scholar would remember for the rest of his life. "When the lake is still, the moon reflects clearly. When the lake is disturbed, even the moon looks broken. I do not explain the moon to troubled water." The scholar felt something collapse inside him, not because he had been defeated by a clever argument, but because for the first time he saw that his hunger to be right had made him unable to receive anything true. The master had not defended himself, had not fought, had not begged to be understood. And yet, somehow, his silence had revealed more than any debate could have. The scholar looked down at the untouched tea. Then, with shaking hands, he lifted the cup and drank. And only then, when pride loosened its grip, did the teaching begin. Visual, the scholar lowering his head, the master watching the evening sky. This is the power of non-explanation, not coldness, not superiority, Not passive aggression, clarity. The master understood something most of us forget. When someone is committed to misunderstanding you, more words do not create more peace. They create more entanglement. And sometimes the deepest wisdom is to stop throwing your truth into a mind that is not ready to receive it. So how do we apply this in real life? How do we stop explaining ourselves without becoming hard, rude, or emotionally distant? Here are 3 powerful steps. This is the first door, because not all explanation is bad. Sometimes explanation is loving. Sometimes it is necessary. Sometimes healthy relationships absolutely require communication. But there is a difference between explaining to connect and explaining to be allowed. That difference changes everything. Healthy explanation sounds like this. I want you to understand where I'm coming from. This matters to me, so I want to I care about this relationship, so I want to speak honestly. Approval, seeking explanation sounds like this. Please don't be upset. Please don't think badly of me. Please tell me I'm still good. Please let me have this boundary without punishing me. One comes from groundedness, the other comes from fear. So the next time you feel the urge to over-explain, pause and ask yourself, am I sharing truth? Or am I asking for permission? That question alone can save you from so much suffering. Imagine you tell a family member you cannot attend an event. A simple truth would be, I'm not able to make it this time. But if fear takes over, it turns into, I'm so sorry, I just have a lot going on, and I know this is important, and I feel bad, and maybe I can come later, and I hope you understand, and please don't be upset. Notice what happened. You're clear, no became emotional bargaining. The moment you notice that, return to center. You do not need to be unkind. Clarity is kinder than anxious over-explaining. Because clarity is honest. This is one of the hardest lessons for sensitive people. Many of us learned that saying no is dangerous, that no causes conflict, that no makes people withdraw love, that no must be softened, dressed up, and carried on a pillow of apology. But the truth is simple. A weak no invites negotiation. A peaceful no invites respect. You do not always need a long reason. I can't do that. That doesn't work for me. I'm not available. I've decided not to. I need rest. I'm keeping this private. These are complete sentences. The reason this feels uncomfortable is because silence after a boundary can feel like guilt. You say no, the room gets quiet. The other person looks disappointed, and suddenly your whole body wants to fill the silence with explanation. That is the old pattern. Stay still, let the silence breathe. Because if you rush in to make your no more acceptable, you teach others that your first answer is not real. You teach them that if they wait long enough, pressure you enough, or look hurt enough, you will begin defending your boundary until it collapses. This happens at work all the time. A coworker asks you to take on something that is not yours. A boss pushes beyond what is reasonable. A client demands instant access to your time. You do not need a 10-minute speech. You can say, I'm not able to take that on. My workload doesn't allow for that right now. I can help next week, not today. I'm not discussing that here. Then stop. The pause after your sentence is where your power lives, not because silence is a weapon, but because silence proves you trust your own boundary. This step is painful but freeing. Some people do not misunderstand you by accident, they misunderstand you on purpose. If they understood you clearly, they would have to respect your boundary. They would have to admit your point makes sense. They would have to stop controlling the story. So instead, they twist your words. They act confused. They make you repeat yourself. They reduce your choices to selfishness, coldness, pride, or rebellion. This is common with toxic family members, manipulative partners, controlling friends, and certain kinds of authority figures. And the mistake many good people make is this. They think one more explanation will finally fix it. It will not. Because the issue is not a lack of information. It is a refusal to honor it. So in these situations, your task is not to explain better. Your task is to detach. Detach does not mean stop caring about all people. It means stop handing your inner peace to people who handle it carelessly. Let us make it real. If a toxic parent says, "You've changed," they may not be asking for truth. They may be reacting to the fact that you no longer abandon yourself so easily. If a manipulative ex says, "I just don't understand why you're doing this," they may understand perfectly. They simply do not like losing access. If a controlling friend says, "You're being selfish," they may actually mean, "You are no longer easy to use." In moments like this, do not rush to defend your soul. Just because someone questions you does not mean you owe them your inner world. Sometimes the wisest response is, "I've made my decision. I'm not going to argue about this. I don't need you to agree." Or simply, "I've said what I needed to say." Then step back. This is not cruelty. This is maturity. And here is something beautiful that happens when you stop over-explaining. Your life gets quieter. Your decisions become cleaner. Your mind becomes less crowded. You begin to notice who respects your truth and who only respects your compliance. That is priceless knowledge. Because when you stop trying to be understood by everyone, you finally become understandable to yourself. There is one more thing you must remember. Silence does not mean suppression. This path is not about swallowing your truth. It is about placing it where it belongs. Speak fully, speak honestly where there is mutual respect. Explain with care where there is real openness. But where there is manipulation, mockery, control, or bad faith, learn restraint. A seed does not grow in stone, and truth does not bloom in every mind. One of the great signs of emotional maturity is this. You stop speaking to change every person, and start speaking only when your words are worthy of your peace. That changes relationships, that changes work, that changes family patterns, that changes the way you carry yourself through the world, because now, instead of constantly asking, "How do I make them understand?" you begin asking, "Is this a place where understanding is even possible?" If the answer is yes, speak with openness. If the answer, that is not weakness. That is wisdom. So let this be your reminder. You do not need to explain your healing to people committed to your old wounds. You do not need to explain your boundaries to people who only liked you without them. You do not need to explain your peace to people who thrive on your confusion. And you do not need to defend every choice that helps you return to yourself. Some people will understand you. Some will not. Some will try. Some will resist. Let that be their journey. Your task is simpler. Protect your center, speak when truth can be received. Be quiet when silence is wiser, and stop trying to earn the right to live your own life, because a calm mind does not beg to be believed. A grounded soul does not chase every misunderstanding. And a peaceful person knows that not every challenge deserves a response. Sometimes the most powerful words are, "Number, I've decided. I'm at peace with my choice." And sometimes, no words at all. If this message brought you clarity, hold on to it. Return to it the next time you feel the old pull to justify, defend, and explain yourself to people who have not earned that access. And if this kind of calm, deep wisdom speaks to your heart, subscribe. There is a quieter life waiting for you, a stronger one, a freer one. Not built on approval, but built on inner stillness. And once you taste that stillness, you will never again confuse endless explanation with peace.